All right, look, I'm just going to say it. I'm feeling pretty guilty, pretty shameful. I'm feeling ashamed of myself. I feel like a dirty, filthy, scum of the earth piece of just below the bottom of the barrel, trash, garbage, total fucking asshole, lizard bellied, yellow fucking turd. And I would be what one of those shits on. That's what I feel like. I feel very low in my in my particular self-esteem. I think this is a generalized thing, though, a theme in my life, the theme of some sort of shame or guilt being present all the time, constantly, no matter what. I'm going to get back to why I feel that way. I just had a thought, though, and I lost it. I already lost it. It's gone. I should write these things down. I got a piece of paper. Look, I have a bunch of pieces of paper and a whole pad of paper. That's how I'm rolling right now. And a whole entire pad of paper. And I totally forgot what I was going to say, but I feel like a real scumbag, a real scum of the earth piece of garbage right now. You know, like real bad. Like there's just, it's all just, it's a mishmash. It's like shame, it's guilt. I just feel like an awful person. And the reason why I feel that way, I lost the thread there. The reason why I feel that way is because I have not been following the credo of this podcast. I have not been open to finding the answers. I've not been, I haven't been watching Face Off. I haven't been reading the scripts that I set aside. I haven't been looking up like Face Off fan fiction erotica online to try to get a feel for the place that this movie holds in the zeitgeist. And I don't know if that even exists. That might be the next spot to look. You know, I'm focused on nothing right now. That's what this face-off thing was. I think it morphed into, it was a place to focus my angst, where it was like, I don't want to do this with my time. I don't want to watch this movie, but at the same time, I do want to watch this movie. That right there, that sort of dichotomy, that push and pull, is another big part of my existence. Like, I don't want to feel shame and guilt about every single thing I do, but I do. And it's a part of like where my impetus to do things comes from, you know, is to try to, what do you call that? Try to justify my existence in some way. What's that all about? Do you guys feel that way? Anybody out there? By the way, hey, hats off to you in the United Kingdom and in Sweden. If you're still on board, I just figured out how to look at where those listens are coming from. There's some here in the U.S., some in the UK, but the biggest amount, the lion's share, coming from Sweden. the only whiter place on earth than the United States and the UK is Sweden. I'm reaching into the pale, pasty face community here, I think. And I'm not that. I don't know what. It's got to be just one person that was like, "Hey, this looks interesting," and now you're embroiled. Now you're part of it. You've become part of the machine. That's like the sugar frosted nutsack. Anything even about it becomes it. And if you still haven't read the book, I'm gonna harp on it about every single time until somebody's like, I read it, I did it. So that's my natural thing is I'm naturally, I feel, do you guys feel like that in Sweden? Is that bred into you in Sweden? I don't know if it was bred into me here. It might just be me. I have a tendency to think that my experience is a general experience, that people around me are sort of processing emotions and taking in stimuli in the same way that I am. And I don't think it's true. In fact, I know it's not true a lot of the time, because I've got that bipolar 1 disorder, and that wasn't diagnosed until I was like 28 or so years old. Maybe even later, 28, something like that, 29, I don't know, right in there. And now, no, it would have been later than that, so maybe 30 something. Anyway, it doesn't fucking matter. Late in life, way too late in life. But up until that point, I thought everybody thought that way. I thought everybody's brain worked that way, to where it was like, overly energetic, happy, just doing good, feeling great about the world, and which would lead into like a point of violence. And I don't mean like punching somebody in the face or something like that, but like destroying something, breaking a mirror. I've broken lots of mirrors, lots of windows, that kind of thing. Breaking things that I use, electronic stuff, computer stuff, music stuff, art stuff, that kind of thing, cars. And so that's how it would go. It would be happy, like a building happiness, like a tea kettle, just building and burbling, and then that release of all this craziness. I used to drink a lot and do drugs and stuff, so that was sort of like self-medicating. But then all that stuff, after that violent release of energy or whatever, it would be followed by just this rancid, disgusting, gross, bottom of the barrel depression that would last anywhere from several weeks to several months to sometimes half a year, and just nasty stuff, like just suicidal all the time, just having horrible thoughts, and like giving over to them too, and just being alone. I'm still alone now. I mean, I'm with Angela and the dogs all the time, but like we get a lot of good quality time together, but still I don't have a huge circle of people that I'm close with all the time. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that before it was diagnosed as an issue, as a problem, as an abnormality or whatever, I thought that's just how people did it. I thought everybody around me was having that, because I would see people get like sad every once in a while and depressed and stuff, and then also get crazy and everything, and I was like, oh, they have it too, they're doing it, this is just how people do it, but it's not true. People don't do that. People don't spend a whole half a year feeling like fucking shit sludge, just grime on the boot of the world, you know what I mean? And it's not like that. A lot of people do, but not all people do. That's not your average normal thing, so that's what I have a tendency to do, is look around and think everybody's sort of going through the same thing I'm going through. They're feeling the same things I'm feeling, because it sort of normalizes it in my brain, but it's not true. So I forget what we were even talking about there. So, so I function on guilt. So that's what I think everybody does. Like, I think, like when I go to eat fast food, which I haven't done in a long time, I got this new app called Lose It, where it's like counting calories. And man, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I had no idea about calories. So I'm trying to lose some of this baby fat that I got from eating all those babies for breakfast, because it's nasty. You gotta have some sort of understanding of what's going on. I had nothing, like handfuls of cheese. You know what I mean? Cheese is a lot of calories, son. So I'm not even really worried about the food. It's just the amount of food was ridiculous. So feeling a lot better. got a little bit of a handle on that kind of stuff. But I'll go to a fast food restaurant, which I haven't done for a while, but I'll go to a fast food restaurant. Just, you could pick the shame and guilt off of me like it was fruit, like it was ripe tumors just hanging off of me physically. It's just this thing, and that was part of it that I liked too. Like, it felt like I was, as long, my dogs are in here if you're hearing flapping, as long as that, as long as I was like this, what do you call it, like a cauldron or something. Not that's not the right word, but like, as long as I was like this, as long as I was manifesting shame and guilt, I felt like I was real, like I'm alive, and that's still what it's like, but it's not so much anymore now that I've recognized it. And the whole bipolar thing, I've sort of got a handle on, through, trying to keep my brain straight. The sleep was the biggest thing, but, anyway, none of that shit really fucking matters. See, this is the this episode of the Face Off podcast, it's got me tripped up. It's got me tripped the fuck up. I think this is episode 19 or 18. I'm gonna have to find out which one it is, but I'm pretty sure it's 19. But it's got me tripped up because it seems like at some point, okay, this is actually in a book that I was reading too, but I had this idea of the natural state of things, and I'm sorry for getting all off topic and everything. I know nobody's used to that. If you've been listening to this, I never go off topic. I'm always the paramour of directed attention. I'm right in the pocket all the time. So, this idea of a mousetrap, I was trying to do I was trying to write up a thing, and it had a mousetrap metaphor, and so I was thinking about mousetraps for a while, and that's a weird thing to do. I read a bunch of David Foster Wallace books. If you like just Baroque descriptions of depression and suicidal ideation, and just really erudite vocabulary. This is just some real technically sound, awesome writing. Check out David Foster Wallace. If you need something to weigh down something, you grab one of his books. If you're going to commit suicide, you just sew some David Foster Wallace books into your lapels and jump off of a bridge, and it'll take you right to the bottom. I don't know, books might float. I think they probably do, at least initially, until they get soaked with water. But anyway, I read a lot of David Foster Wallace, and I think I've read all of David Foster Wallace. He's dead now. He actually was one of the ones, one of the suicidal artists that committed suicide. That's an interesting group there. The ones that talk about it and then do it, That's rough, because usually my understanding is that the more you talk about it, the less likely you are to actually do it. At least that's what I'm going on. I could be wrong. It could be catastrophically wrong, which would be kind of right anyway. So what I was trying to get at here, I was talking about a mousetrap. Man, I'm just all over the place today, talking about a metaphor. David Foster Wallace, he talked about looking at stuff. So if you've seen the Mona Lisa before, everybody has. You know what the Mona Lisa is? They probably have it on stamps. There's parodies of it, or some other famous painting like the Scream, or Van Gogh, his sunflowers, Starry Night, these kind of things. These are all in the public consciousness. You probably have seen them, even if you don't recognize the name. American Gothic, that's another one. There's just tons of them. There's a lot. So anyway, you take this idea of this painting in your head, and maybe you've only seen it online, maybe you've seen reproductions in books, but you have this idea of this painting, and I'm going off from what he was actually talking about, but you have this idea of this painting, but you don't actually, we don't actually have an idea of it. That's what the power of art is to actually be there in front of it and to stand and look at it, not to walk past it, not to give it a brief momentary glance in a book as a reproduction, but if you sit, even with a book, if you sit and look at it, it starts to become something different than what it is. It starts to become part of your story, and you start to see things that are in it that are unusual, that are you wouldn't have noticed in passing. If you get really close to a Van Gogh painting, it stops being anything. It just becomes this weird series of brush strokes, which every painting is. But like Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa. If you look at the Mona Lisa, there's several weird things about it, but one of the oddest things is that it's got two different backgrounds. So she's right in the dead center of the painting, and there's a background, and it appears to be one background when you look at it, but if you really look at it, it becomes two separate backgrounds. Both of them are from different point of views and stuff, and they're both painted in different ways. I mean, it's very bizarre, but that's what it is. And who would even know that unless you took the time to look at it, There's people that look at those paintings every single day. That's something that they do, it's like a meditation or something like that. And I'm not trying to tout. I'm only using those examples because they're sort of readily available in most people's minds, I would assume, but I only assume that because I'm a bourgeois twat. but anything, take a look at a comic book. I used to read Sam Keith's comics over and over again, Max and whatever stuff he did with Marvel. I read those over and over and over again because the art was so bizarre and so weird, and I could always find something different in there. There was always little shit lurking around in the corners and the fucking borders and stuff like that, and just all over the place. It's really, really an interesting thing. And Alan Moore's artist, the artist that he gets to draw his comics and stuff that he collaborates with, some of those guys are unfucking believable in the depth and detail and craziness that they put into it. But it's all everything. I like Mike Mignola, the Hellboy artist. His stuff and creator or whatever, his stuff is fantastic. It's really weird, really deep, but it's got this sort of simplicity to it that I fucking dig. I'm into that sort of simplicity and stuff. So anyway, what I'm saying is I don't hold any kind of art above any other kind. I think that's the worst thing you can do for a piece of art is to put it up on a pedestal and make it precious, because it makes it fragile. We talked about that before too, that you put something on a pedestal, it falls off, it breaks, because that's what happens, man. No matter what, it's going to fall off and break, and then you glue it back together, put it back up on the pedestal, it's going to fall off and break again, and glue it back together. You keep doing that until all that's left is glue. The strongest part of the art is glue, and that's sort of like maybe a metaphor for describing your art, explaining your art. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but sometimes you just gotta let the shit live or die by its own merit. That's an interesting thing, though, when you take and you create something and put it out into the world, and then the world does what it wants to with it. That's why I hate public art. I fucking can't stand that shit. I just saw some public fucking douchebaggery when I was going to work this morning. When I worked, okay, you can still find these in Spokane, but when I worked at River Park Square like 10 years ago, they put this installation in, and it was all over Spokane, all over downtown, and it was these big fiberglass bears, right? And they put them out all over the place, and the idea was you'd have these bears, And they're these huge, they're like fucking life-size fiberglass bears, and they just have all these crazy designs all over them and stuff. And so they were just out in the middle of everywhere on the sidewalks and stuff. And until a couple of weeks later, when they started getting fucking demolished and people were destroying them. And then at that point, they had to be put behind barriers because they didn't want them destroyed. That's the whole point, is if your fucking shit is weak, then don't put it out there. That's, you know, it's going to live or die. It's part of the cycle. It's not too precious to be destroyed. You know what I'm saying? Is what my opinion of it is. But anyway, there's something similar to that going on right now. It just drives me fucking crazy. I don't know if they do it every year or something, but it's this big concrete tube thing that's about 2 or 3 feet high. So it weighs like 1,000 pounds, you know, and it's got a fiberglass heart on it with a bear painted on it, or the one that I saw had a bear painted on it anyway. It looks like the same artist, you know, and it's like, God damn, what is this? Why is this out here? Are we trying to pretend that we're not living in some fucking concrete hellscape that's just no life can exist there that isn't, you know, like feeding the system? We have trees there, but if they get ugly, we're going to fucking kill them, take them out, and plop another tree in and see if that one survives. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, those trees can stay in the park. I don't know if you can hear my dogs in the background, but they are being disgusting. They're just fucking tongues in butts and ears and fucking noses. One face just goes right in the other one's mouth. It's insane, man. It is nasty back there, but they seem to know I'm talking about them now, so they've calmed down a little bit, giving me funky looks and shit. So, okay, and as far as public art goes, also that huge fountain, it drives me crazy. It's like we're trying to beautify something that was beautiful to begin with, and now it's like if you cut somebody's fucking arm off and grinded their face off with a cheese grater and then decorated it with flowers or something. It's like, no, dude, this used to be the pinnacle of beauty. What we think of as like the pinnacle of beauty is the untouched nature and stuff, and we just grind it down and put up this, like I said, this awful concrete hellscape from which there is no escape. Oh, my dogs are so loud. God damn it. But from which there's no escape, you know, and then put a couple little shitty pieces of art here and there. I fucking hate it. The only kind of, and I don't even like, I may be a bad person to talk about this, I don't even like gallery art and stuff. It drives me crazy. It's like, what are you doing with your life? You can get it together. Go hide this shit in your basement. That's probably where my shame comes in. When I see somebody like pouring their heart out, I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you're sitting there at a party or something and just hanging out, and then some dude whips out a guitar and then starts singing a song, but not just like singing some song, you know, like not singing some like Rolling Stones or something, or singing a Nickelback song or something, but like some heartfelt bullshit that they wrote about their fucking last breakup and all this, and it's just like agonizing to watch. Just fucking agonizing. And then there's always somebody who's there, and then at the end of the song they're like, oh my god, that was beautiful, and it eggs this person on. Oh, I fucking hate that. I hate poems when somebody's just having it out on stage. This shit is not okay. So that makes me feel like that person should feel ashamed of themselves. Should feel guilty, you know, for not having some decorum. We're living a we're living a society here, you know. Just take it back a notch. Stop feeling so much. That's what I feel like about art too. It's like you did this, you mounted it, you got it in a gallery, you made prints of it. That's what it means to you. Like, what the fuck, dude? Go hide that shit in your basement and then let people discover it after you die, and then they get to make a bunch of money off of it because they're the fucking scumbags. I don't know. I'm jaded. I'm real jaded about all this stuff. Art, music, comedy, podcasts, life, work, food. Just jaded. Just a nasty, nasty person. And so I probably shouldn't be, commenting on any of this stuff. But I am. And it's because the seed of it is because I feel guilty for everything that I do. Like I said, I started this podcast today. I feel guilty because I haven't been putting in any Facebook. It's going to be pretty soon. I will have put out more episodes having not watched Face Off than I had put out having watched Face Off. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's just, this is the story of how this podcast got its name. It started out as this fucking ill-conceived pile of garbage and morphed into a less structured, ill-conceived pile of garbage, and then that's what happened. Now it's just the name is a relic. The Face Off podcast name is a relic. It doesn't actually mean anything because there's nobody facing off. We're not talking about Face Off. Nothing's going on. It's just a rambling fucking nightmare of a mess. Got a new studio, by the way. If you're watching on the YouTube, you already know that. It's right there. But it's not really new, and it's not really a studio. It's just a room. It's just a room where you put stuff. Now, maybe I can tie this back to the mousetrap thing that I don't want to lose that thread of, but I was trying to write this thing, and it had a mousetrap metaphor that I thought was apt. It seemed to work out pretty good. But okay, so let me see how to set this up. So consider a mousetrap, and consider a mousetrap a natural thing, a natural occurrence, in the same sense that everything is a natural occurrence. So nothing that's happened ever in history is unnatural. Everything is natural. There's this weird little keychain on my table here. It's from Buffalo Wild Wings. And it clips to your belt, and you clip your keys on it, and it's got a little string, and the string goes out, and then it zips back up, so it can just hang there dangling. Totally natural. That thing was always meant to be conceived and constructed and used for what it's being used for, which is absolutely nothing. And that's exactly, it was always that way from the beginning, from the big fucking bang. It was always conceived to be coming into existence. One second there. And now it exists, and here it is. It's good to go. And so in that same vein, same with nuclear weapons, same with Donald Trump, same with candy, the same with those rolled ice cream sundaes. What the fuck is that all about? Just scraping ice cream with a paint scraper. It looks delicious. It looks awesome. I'm really jealous about that. So all this stuff is natural. So in this sense, the mousetrap is 100% natural. It's a natural thing. So with that in mind, what is the natural state of a mousetrap? Is it set or sprung? So set would be, so it's set with the cheese in it and it's ready to snap. It's locked and loaded. Or sprung would be that it's already done its thing. It's sprung. Maybe there's a mouse in there. Maybe not. Maybe it's just, ready to be set again. Which one of those states is the natural state of it? Because both states are valid. What about a third state? Is the natural state of it the movement in between set and sprung? None of this really matters much, but it's just something I was thinking of. And so I feel like as a natural creature, my natural state is either guilt or shame. One of those two. I'm either set or sprung. It's like the guilt is the pre-shame. Like the guilt is what I feel before anybody else knows about it. And then when somebody knows about it, that's the shame part. So I exist with one of those all the time. I don't know. It's kind of a bummer. Do you want to hear a story about the Rescue Rangers? That's a rhetorical question, obviously. You can't answer. I might tell you that story. I might not. There's nothing you could do about it. Which is natural? Is it me to tell that story, or is it me to not tell that story? Who knows? I feel like I have this weird relationship with money, and I think it's because of the Rescue Rangers. I think they fucked me up for my whole entire life. My relationship with money is that I hate it, I disdain it, but I desire it, and I'm ashamed of both of those things. So that's a really weird table to have to try to deal with those intertwining fucking self-made narratives and stuff. So something like this suits me just right, because there's no money in it at all, and I could just give it away, and it doesn't matter if anybody wants it, if people don't want it. It doesn't matter. It's just available. You can have it. It doesn't matter if it's good or great or grand or wonderful or doing anything at all. It's just what I'm doing at some particular moment, and I can deal with that. It's the same with drawing and stuff. I would draw stuff and put it out on Facebook, which I'm not. And writing, I don't know. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm staying off of it. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast with Elon Musk, and he had an offhanded part where he said, "Hey, you think if we deleted Facebook off of our phones, what percentage happier would we be? Maybe like 10%? 10% happier? You get rid of Facebook, you're 10% happier." And Elon Musk was like, "Yeah, probably right around there." Like he was trying to calculate it or something. And I was like, I'll take 10%. I need to get rid of this. I need to get off of fucking social media, because I'm never happy when I'm on there. It's just a guilt feeder, It's a emotion harvester, was the way that Angela put it. It harvests people's emotions. I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know what they're using it for. But that always makes me feel like the mom from The Water Boy, where she's like, football's from the devil and stuff. So I feel like that if I don't like something, it's from the devil, and its motives are to be questioned, and the shit is just it's bananas. That's how I feel about stuff. So I'm off Facebook. If you want to get in contact with this podcast, try Messenger. I still got Messenger on there, which was weird, because right when I deleted Facebook and blocked it and stuff, I started getting a bunch of messages from Messenger, and I never get messages from Messenger. It was really bizarre. I got messages from 4 different people in one day, I think. That was weird. That doesn't ever happen. I don't know, maybe that's a good sign. And the dogs are barking. It's probably a good thing that they're barking, because this went off the rails a long time ago. This is the podcast that this is the 3rd or 4th time I've tried to start this one, and it hasn't worked. I don't even think this one's working, if I'm being honest. It's just a mess, no through line. It's probably not entertaining at all, and probably slightly depressing. If I'm being honest, it might even be lowering your intelligence if you're listening to it. Just shaving it off, shaving it off like a really fine Parmesan grater. Just shaving off the callus of intelligence into fine powder, and you're not even noticing it. It almost feels nice, but it's not. It's gonna be bad eventually. Eventually, it'll just be a pile of dusted intelligence. And you'll be numb to the slings of the world, my friend, because that's where they hit, right in the smarts. At least that's what I tell myself. Tell myself it hurts because I'm super smart. Is that right? So, let's see here. I don't know why I was talking about that mousetrap. I just wanted to get it out. I know why I was talking about public art, because the only kind of art that I can really deal with these days is graffiti. And I like that because it just takes, that's the kind of art that I like. Okay, I was reading two books recently. One I was reading was called Out in the Open. I don't know who wrote that. It was a new guy. It was good though. It had a good old feel to it. It was about a kid running away from home, I think in Mexico. It didn't really say, but the reason why I like that book is because it was insistent. It didn't care that I was there reading it. It existed, and it had no preamble to it. It didn't care where I showed up. It just did what it did, and what it did was it existed powerfully, and it was cool. I didn't have to understand it. I could feel that. I did understand it, but I didn't have to. I could feel that this book, who else writes like that is a Cormac McCarthy. If you never read any Cormac McCarthy books, give it a shot. It's almost like you don't even have to be there, because it's already done. This is already made, and it already exists, and it already has a life without you. And I like that feeling in art. And that's what graffiti feels like. It feels like it doesn't matter if I'm looking at it. It lives there. So I see a painting on the side of a dumpster, and it's like, fuck, yes. Take that space back. Take it back. It's a I don't know, like a fist in the air sort of feel to it. There's like an idiom behind it, it's this powerfulness, because you don't really get in trouble for graffiti, and that's a word I don't like, getting in trouble. If you're still getting in trouble, then you're probably not an adult. You're just pretending, because who the fuck's getting you in trouble? What the fuck does that even mean, I get in trouble. God damn. If somebody says that, I know that they're stunted. Hey, you get in trouble? You can't get a huge... there's not huge consequences to getting caught doing graffiti. It just takes kind of some balls, because they'll make it seem like it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal. He's just painting somewhere. Speaking of public art and stuff, one that really pisses me off, I live in Brown's Edition in Spokane, Washington. And by all accounts, Spokane, Washington has an interesting homelessness situation going on. And I don't know what it is about it that's so unique, but everybody that comments on it has noticed that it's weird. I think it just takes a breed of person to survive up here homeless. It's crazy. It's just November 1st right now, and it's not snowing, which seems like a fucking miracle to me. I don't know, man. It is rough. So it takes, I think, a special breed, a tough type of crazy person to be homeless up here in Spokane, because god damn, it's hard to survive. I lived and worked in Prescott, Arizona, which has a climate similar to Spokane, because it's up really, really high. It gets real hot in the summertime, but also a lot of snow in the wintertime and cold. And I worked in a gas station, and this homeless dude would come in, and he was homeless, but he worked at Labor Ready and stuff. So he'd come in every day and get, beers and coffee and whatever, chips and cigarettes and stuff. But every year, right around October, he would fucking motivate to Phoenix, which was like, 90, 100 miles away. And he would go live down there for the wintertime. And then when it got to be April or whatever, he would motivate back up to Prescott. Live there for the summertime. That's pretty fucking cool, man. That's the way to do it. Shit, if I was homeless in Spokane and the prospect of winter was coming up, I would walk away. I would take my chances and walk as far directly south as I could possibly get. Hopefully get through Oregon and into California before the fucking snow flies, you know? Because this is a hellhole in the wintertime for people that live in houses and have cars and stuff. I couldn't fucking imagine living outside. And every single day, too, during the summertime, I'll walk to work. Last winter, in the wintertime, last winter, I was going to work at 5:30 in the morning. That's when I would show up. And I would cuss and spit and hate my life when I was leaving my house at 5 in the morning to walk to work. It's a whole entire mile. I would be walking and I'd be freezing and cold and pissed off. And without fail, every single fucking day I would pass somebody sleeping on the street, no matter how cold it was. I was like, God damn it. This person is invalidating my bitch. Like, I need to be able to complain about this without seeing them suffering worse. Son of a bitch. I wish I'm not so... I don't hate homeless people. I talk about homeless people a lot. I don't hate homeless people at all. I just wish, I kind of wish it was less... that it appeared to be less viable as an option for me, because it's still always there. It's like I could just quit my job and be homeless. Why not do that for a while? It seems possible. Not here in Spokane, but maybe I quit in the summertime, like right when spring's rolling around, and just start walking, see where it goes. Try to get down to the AZ or the CA. It's gotta be hard being homeless in California. Everything's so fucking expensive. Just when you cross the border, it gets more expensive. I don't know if you've seen that. If you cross the mountains here in Washington, you go from Cle Elum, go over the mountain and land in Redmond. It's like a $2 difference in gasoline, like a $2 difference in Cheez-Its too. It's ridiculous. What the fuck is going on over there that's so goddamn special? Everybody knows what it is. It's the computer hub area, Google and Nintendo and Amazon and Microsoft and all this other bullshit. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So I like insistent art. I like art that's insistent. I just finished a book called Here I Am by Jonathan Safran Foer. I think this is Foer. I think it's Foer. Anyway, that guy's cool. I've never read one of his books. I kind of was holding off on them. Like, they seemed like they'd probably be sort of touchy-feely. Because he wrote Everything is Illuminated and Incredibly Close and Incredibly Loud, I think is what it's called. And some other book about vegetarianism. I don't know. It seemed like it would be sentimental, touchy-feely type. I don't know. I just got that vibe. And maybe those books are. But this book, Here I Am, it was good enough to want to go back and check out those other ones. Because it was real insistent. It didn't give a shit about me. And I like that. I like that feeling. I don't know. Maybe that's like a letting loose of control. Like somebody saying, hey, I got this. Just fucking whatever. Sit there or don't. I don't care. Do whatever you want. That's what graffiti feels like to me. It's out there. It's a pretty aggressive act. Not a lot of victims in graffiti. You can do. Oh, that's what I was gonna say about Spokane and the homeless people. That's right. About public art. All right, here we go. So there's this other thing Spokane does. Famously, a year ago or something, there was all these spots where homeless people would sleep underneath the freeway, and so instead of trying to work something out to give somebody a place to sleep, Spokane spent a ridiculous amount of money, $250,000 or something, on big black pointy rocks to pour under there, so it wouldn't be a viable sleeping spot. Fucking so weird. What a weird thing to do. But there's this other thing they do. I live in Brown's Edition, and in order to come into Brown's Edition, you got to go underneath a train track, you know, from one direction to the other. And they put these damn near psychedelic paintings underneath the train tracks. So you call it an overpass or something. Underneath those on the walls and stuff, these damn near psychedelic paintings of just craziness, like just huge faces that are all screaming or laughing or doing something, you know, and it's just bizarre. They're incongruous and stuff. There's one on the Maple Street Bridge. It's just these huge, weird looking eyes, like weird reptilian looking eyes, humanoid reptilian looking fucking eyeballs. They're just gigantic and just staring, you know. And yeah, of course you would put those under the underpass where homeless people, possibly with mental instabilities and on drugs and stuff like that, would try to hide from the, you know, hide out from the rain and stuff like that. Of course we want huge, nearly psychedelic, crazed faces that just stare down at the person that's standing there, you know. Just gigantic reptilian eyeballs just piercing through your soul. That's a good spot for them. Why don't they have that shit on the side of fucking banks and stuff, you know? I mean, give me a break. What the fuck, dude? You gotta, I don't know. They got those. They painted all those underpasses too. Why the fuck do they paint an underpass? I don't get this. I don't get the public art mentality. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I get it ostensibly, but ostensibly it doesn't make any sense. It's just, or under scrutiny, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's just, you try to beautify the ugly places without changing the ugly places at all. It's like literally trying to fix the foundation of a house by putting new paint on it. It doesn't work. It's a mess, you know. I had to get a drink of water. Talk amongst yourselves. Got foundational issues, you know. That's what I feel like. I got foundational issues and they come out to the surface from time to time. But that doesn't matter. So when I was a young man, very young man, a kid, when I was a child, when I was a human child, way back when I was a human child, I moved from Longview when I was 8 years old with my parents to the middle of fucking nowhere up past Colville, 20 miles north of Colville. What a nightmare. This is gigantic, spooky ass, weird fucking house and out in the middle of the goddamn woods. And my grandma in Longview would send me videotapes that she put, taped off of HBO movies, TV shows, you know, because we only got 2 Canadian channels on TV while we were up there, which is plenty. Two channels is enough. 2 channels in a VCR is so much enough entertainment that you don't, I mean, come on. Do we really need this Netflix? I got Netflix, Amazon Prime, Tubi, which is free. I can't even bring myself to watch it. Plus, I'll download movies, online and stuff. It's a ridiculous amount of information. It's too much. You get 2 channels in a VCR and you're set. I'm going to be a fucking Luddite before this is all over. Before it's all said and done. So she would send me these videotapes. She would send us, me and my sister, and my parents too. They'd send them tapes, but they all migrated to us, you know. The best one was Robocop. That was the best tape I've ever gotten. I don't even remember what else was on that tape. Jesus Christ, my dogs are so loud. One of them in particular, Pug. I don't know if you can hear him, but happy birthday if you can. So the best one was Robocop. That was my favorite movie. It still could be considered one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's one of those things that go with the Mona Lisa. We're talking about it. It seemed like a cool movie at first, and then it morphed and it grew with me because I watched it so many times. I watched it recently and I was like, fuck, this still holds up somehow. That's crazy. And it's not holding up like in a nostalgic way. It's holding up like as an actual decent film. It's very strange. So if you haven't seen Robocop, what are you doing with your life? Go watch it 87 times over 38 years and really just get in there. I guess more like 30 years. Maybe 28 years, something like that. That's a long time to have a relationship with a movie that's always been fine. It's always gone well. We've always got along. All the time. Holds up under scrutiny for me. I should have done this podcast about Robocop, if I'm being honest. That would have been it would have given me something something to live off of. Paul Verhoeven, the director of Robocop, has said that is the story of if Jesus was an American. Now, this is what it would be. He would be a robot cop that shoots people in the dick. Indestructible, but also destructible ultimately. Anyway, Robocop's fucking phenomenal. It's great. It's a good movie. I'll say that unequivocally. It's a really good fucking solid flick. If you like robot cops and multicultural gangs, multicultural drug dealer gangs, just all around bad people. They were just a utility gang. They were just gang for hire, bad people, like kind of like the what do you call that? The domestic terrorist that Castor Troy was, except for these guys are so much better. I mean, Castor Troy and Pollux Troy and their little henchmen, garbage compared to Clarence Bodiger and his boys. Emil, yeah, and fucking Leon. Okay, Emil, Leon, shit, I can't remember the rest of them. It's just Emil and Leon right now. But they're so fucking good. They were such a great gang. They knew their spots. They knew what they were supposed to do. I don't want to say one of them was named Reggie. They were all so they were all fucking crazy. So Clarence Bodiger was like the white guy, the de facto Americano kind of thing, and Leon was the second in command. He was the Italian kind of guy, also a white guy, but Ray Wise, fucking amazing. And then the third in command was kind of up for grabs, it seemed like, and it was the guy that seemed to have the handle on it was Emil, who was like this. I think he was meant to be this like white ginger Mexican, like a Louis C.K. type of character or something. This is probably before Louis C.K., but like fully Mexican, just does not look like it. And then there was the black dude. There was I want to say Korean fellow. There was an Irish guy that gets shot to shit right at the beginning of it. There was like a Dickensian fucking street urchin dude that gets thrown off of gets thrown out at the beginning. Bobby, can you fly, Bobby? It throws him out of the and they were all good. That was a good gang, man. That was a good gang. The black dude was super militant. Yeah, he was always wearing camo and shit. Fuck, I can't remember those guys' names anymore. Oh well. Anyway, watch Robocop. Fucking badass. The Korean dude only has one line in the whole entire movie, but it's the best line in the movie. Is when Robocop punches down the door to this huge cocaine factory, which is it's like a drawbridge to this gigantic cocaine factory where it's literally like a factory putting cocaine in vials and stuff. All these people working there and shit. They probably got 401ks and unemployment insurance and all this different stuff. But and Robocop punches down the door and tells everybody, this whole huge, hundreds of people, hundreds of armed gangster fucks. He's like, come quietly or there'll be trouble. And then homeboy, the Korean dude, fucking racks his shotgun. He's like, oh, fuck you. It's like, what are you talking about, you piece of shit? We are going to kill you, robot man. Kill the fuck out of you. I think he ends up dying in that scene. That's rough. That guy was cool. Anyway, good movie. So that was one of the videos that she sent. I like that one. I was happy, but it was tons of videos. I mean, we had a whole collection of them, all different kinds of movies off of HBO. And she sent this one in cartoons too. She would tape cartoons, and one of them was this weird animation block on the Disney Channel, and it was these weird like reboot cartoon sitcoms or something. And it was there was DuckTales was one of them, and that was the one with Scrooge McDuck and his nephews. And the Beagle Boys and Launchpad McQuack and shit. And then there was another one, Tailspin. We didn't get a lot of Tailspin. That was the one with Baloo from the Jungle Book, all those characters, and they ran a plane business. I don't know, they flew planes and shit. I never really got into that one. But the one that fucked me up was the Rescue Rangers. That was the Chip and Dale, the two little chipmunks, and they started a detective agency. And I don't know why, but they did. It was pretty fucking dope, but they had friends. They had a big fat rat named Monterey Jack. And he had a little buddy named Zipper, I think. He was a glow bug. Like a firefly, I guess. Maybe something like that. And then there was the girl one. She was a squirrel. I think it says that's the difference between a chipmunk and a squirrel. The chipmunks are dudes. The squirrels are girls. Girl squirrels. God, I feel sexist because I can't remember her name. Gidget. I think her name was Gidget. And she was a mechanic. She was like a tomboy squirrel, but still sexy. It was always like, is one of these chipmunks going to hook up with that squirrel or what? And Monterey Jack was just, he was older, so he wasn't interested, one of those things. And so they got caught up in this plot, like trying to figure out this plot that was going on. And it was I can't remember the guy's name, but he had a cat named Fat Cat who had a gang. It was like these fucking ridiculous cats. They were so shitty. Same with that one too. I think there was some racist shit in there, but they were multicultural. There was one part where they had to deal with Siamese cats and stuff. Anyway, so she sends us this tape, and it's got the Rescue Rangers on it, and it's a 5-episode arc. The very first 5 episodes of the Rescue Rangers, and explains their origin. And it explains how they got involved in being tiny detectives. And it's all okay. So this is continuity. These shows don't usually have continuity. This was one of the first times I was like, Alf didn't really have continuity. It did. I've watched Alf recently, and it did at first. It had some continuity, but then it just trailed off into a sitcom. Most sitcoms don't, unless they say to be continued. Then they do the double episode or triple episode or whatever, but they don't have continuity. That's, I think, part of the reason why Rick and Morty is so fucking phenomenally popular, is because they went for continuity, and it's nice. It's nice to have a continuum, So this was Rescue Rangers with continuity, and it was telling the origin story. I think it was 5 episodes, right? And they're getting involved in this big plot. They're trying to figure out what's going on, because it's crazy shit, And I'm like, 8 or 10 years old. No, probably like 10 years old. Maybe 9, 10 years old. And this shit is blowing my fucking mind because they're touching on all the bases, you know? They're hitting all the emotional strings. These guys have friendships. These are new friendships that are forming, you know, because they didn't know Monterey Jack and Zipper and Gidget. They didn't. God, I want to say her name was Gidget. Maybe it was Gadget. Anyway, I don't fucking know. But these chipmunks, they didn't know. They only knew each other. They didn't know these other people before they got involved in this thing. So, and they didn't know Fat Cat and them either. So there's all these relationships that are being formed and bonds being made, and they're finding each other's boundaries and all this stuff, and they're learning to trust each other if they can trust each other, you know, and all this different stuff. And there's all these different story arcs, this crazy conspiracy thing going on where it's like, what is this? What is happening? I don't understand it. There's a jewel at the beginning that the Fat Cat's owner's trying to steal, and he steals it, and it's this huge jewel, and it's like, oh, he wanted the jewel, of course, and then it's like, no, we didn't want the jewel for its value. We wanted the jewel to use in these crazy two-legged laser robot thing that is giant, you know, it's like a crazy like Star Wars thing. It's got 2 legs, and it shoots a laser out, and that's what the jewel was for. The ruby was for, is to focus the laser and make it reach its full potential, you know. And it's like, oh fuck, that's crazy. What are they gonna do with that laser? Some sort of crazy terrorism stuff, you know. This is like conspiracy. This is like globe-trotting shit, you know. And then they take the I must have watched this shit like 400 times, you know. They take the fucking the laser robot, and they go to Antarctica or something, and they steal a train, and they get a bunch of ice. Like, they're cutting out these huge ice bricks, and they got these other helicopter robots to pick up the ice bricks and drop them into the train cars and stuff. And the rescue rangers the whole time are trying to thwart this thing, and they're having some success because Fat Cat's got his own deals going too, and they're fucking up some of his gigs, you know. And it's just insane. It's just madness, you know. And then it ends up that they're in this subterranean, crazy subterranean place where they're bringing all this ice in, and that's the end of episode 4. They got this crazy laser robot, all this ice, this train that they stole, you know, and it's taken 4 episodes to get to that point. And then she didn't send episode 5. So all I knew was up to that point was how the conspiracy built, you know, up to the point where there's laser robots, helicopter robots, a stolen train, a huge amount of ice, and just these ruthless villains doing some crazy conspiracy shit, you know. It was fucking blowing my mind. And this was pre-internet, you know, so I was like, well, fuck. She must have known it, too. She cut out the commercials. I'm not complaining. It was nice to have the entertainment, but she had to be sitting there while it was playing, you know, cutting out the commercials, but, you know, pushing pause and then pause again to make it record again, and but didn't notice that there was a continuum, that there was a 5th episode that that was totally required, like it was necessary. I needed that 5th episode, but I didn't get it. Didn't get that 5th episode, and so I watched the first 4 episodes, and I'm pretty sure it was 4 and 5. You know, I'm not 100%. It could have been more or less, but so that final episode I never had, and I must have watched those fucking things hundreds of times. I wanted to be an animator when I was a kid. I wanted to draw cartoons. I still have a fascination with cartoons, the movement of them and stuff. So I would study these fucking videos. I'd put them on in the background while I was drawing and everything, and let them play for hours. I'd study these fucking things. So I wanted to do that. And then when I was like 20 or 22 years old or something, still pre-internet. I mean, maybe it was even later. I think it was later, maybe like 25 or 26 years old. I have a hard time remembering dates, but I was definitely well into my 20s, and having never seen, I still put them shits on. Like, I still had a VCR and stuff. Maybe not that late, but I must have watched those things 100 times. And one day I was watching TV, just regular old TV, and that fucking first episode came on, and I was like, oh shit, they're playing these? That is so weird, because it's old as fuck. They're playing them, and so I watched the first episode, and then boom, right next, not even have to wait, the next episode was the second one. I was like, oh, no fucking way, they're gonna play all of them in a row. So I sit there and watched them, and it went to the fourth, and then it went to the fifth episode, the one that I hadn't seen. This was the first. So the other ones were like an old glove. I knew them inside and out. All four of those episodes, I knew what happened, where it went, and everything. But the fifth one, I was like, oh, fuck, it was super fresh. I was like, I've never, ever seen this. This is the final chapter. It's all coming into place. And so it's the ice, it's the laser robots, it's the train, it's the globe-trotting gangsters, it's this huge conspiracy. What was it all leading up to? I had thought up a million different scenarios, where this worked out and stuff. What's it leading up to? It was leading up to, they needed all that ice to take it into this huge cavern underneath a bank and build and use the ice to make a gigantic jello mold that went from the floor of the cavern all the way up to the ceiling, which was the floor of the bank vault. And then they were going to hit the jello mold with something, and the vibrations would cause the floor of the bank vault to crack open, and then all the money would fall down into the jello mold, and then they would have the money. They would just get it because it was stuck in the jello. So they were going to use the ice to build a giant jello mold, to then hit that jello mold with something, and the vibrations would cause the bank vault to crack. The money would fall into the jello, and then they would get to keep the money. That was the whole plan. That was the whole entire plan. They went through all that bullshit to steal some money from a bank. And I'm pretty sure that experience, that 20-year long experience or whatever it was, 15, 20-year long experience of having ideas of what the ice could be for, what the laser robots could be for, whatever, just because I was so enamored with this show. It was such a great arc. It was so good and well written up until that fucking point. And then it was like, oh no, we just want the money. It's just for some amount of money we're gonna do this insane thing. They could have probably gotten the same amount of money just by building a huge jello mold and charging people $6 or $7 to go look at it, But no, they wanted to steal it. It was the worst thing. I think it fucked me up for money and trust in my life. Because I fucking hate money now. And I'm pretty sure that's part of it. I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why. Is because of that fucking show. Even telling it now feels like a horrid anticlimax. It was a long time I was talking about that. But I can't stress. There's so few movies that still, or shows or whatever, that still stand out. And one of them was Robocop. One of them was Rescue Rangers from my childhood. I don't give a fuck about any of those movies. I don't feel nostalgia for hardly anything. Even stuff that I thought I'd never outgrow, like Tommy Boy or Black Sheep, that kind of shit. Fuck, those are pretty dumb by today's standards, I just don't feel a lot of nostalgia for stuff. But those two things, I have this like bizarre spot inside my self for. And it's always been there, and it'll probably always fucking be there. I'll probably be talking about fucking Rescue Rangers and Robocop when I'm 90, like a dumb cuck fucking douche piece of shit. See, that's another part of that nostalgia thing. I feel guilty about nostalgia. Those are the only two shows, though, that I don't feel any guilt towards because they had some sort of weird effect on me. I mean, Robocop, fuck, man. I watched that thing a bazillion, billion, trillion, billion times, and I feel like I can relate to all those people in there, in that movie. Like, I understand all their motivations and stuff, and the same with the Rescue Rangers. I understood what they were going through, even though I never went through anything remotely similar, but I understood what they were trying to do with the story. Like, I understood stories based around that fucking show. So stupid, man. See, it's weird. It's bizarre. And Face Off is not, it's gonna have, God, it's like I'm carving out a place in stone to put whatever this face-off thing is. Maybe this will just be a big chunk of guilt and I'll just get back on it and it'll all work out, but who the fuck knows? I tried to listen to the first episode of this podcast again and it was embarrassing, which is good. That's nice, because I listen to every episode and I've only been really embarrassed by a couple of them, but I've liked them as they've gone out. I've been like, okay, this is fine, whatever it's going. But I listened back to that very first episode and I was like, oh god damn, that was awful. Holy shit. Making a lot of weird noises, a lot of long pauses, a lot of gross shit going on, and just stupid points and stuff. But so maybe there's some evolution. That's why I like looking back and seeing that things suck, is because it means there's been some sort of evolution. So hopefully this episode, when I listen to it, isn't complete garbage, which, if you're listening to it, spoiler alert, I've deemed it not complete garbage, which is odd because I put it out before I listened back to it. So if it's out, then they took that leap of faith and put it out there. Felt good enough about it at the end. How I measure that usually is if I feel better. There's been 2 episodes I put out that I didn't feel better after doing them than I did before doing them, and so I didn't. So I put them out, but I wasn't happy about it. So this one, we're coming to the end of it here, and I feel all right about it. I feel fine. I don't feel great. I just feel like whatever, which is good. Moderation. You gotta find that middle ground and sort of just let it be what it's gonna be. I guess the reason why I feel better about this episode is that this one was a hard one to get started. I mean, it's been like 2 weeks in the making. I've tried to start it like 3 or 4 different times, and it's just been a non-starter. It's just been stubborn. I felt like I had nothing to say, which it didn't change for this episode. I really don't feel like I said much. But it's been a lot of me talk. I don't like the me talk, It's too introspective sometimes. Can just seem masturbatorial or whatever. So, anyway, thanks for hanging out. I've had fun. I'm going to probably get out of here. I've been reading a lot of books lately. A lot more books. I'm cutting back on podcasts and movies and music and TV and everything. Oh man, I've been listening to a little bit more music, listening back to some stuff. Jesus Christ. Some of those old like Slayer records and stuff. I listened to one song today where I was like, I know this song back to front, and then I listened to it and I was like, this entire song's about rape. From start to finish, the whole entire thing is about just horrible, horrible rape. I was like, that's not great. And I listened to this song 400,000 times and not know that. But if I'm being honest, I did know it. I think I did know it. But it didn't seem to be as big of a problem to me back then. So, I don't know. It didn't seem as problematic. Anyway, on that note, it's time to get the fuck out of here. Let me just go on record as saying rape is definitely a problem. It's definitely an issue that afflicts many people. It's not great. So if you're raping, just stop, and think about it for a little bit. Would you like that done to you? Would you like someone to do that to you? To it's real immature. It's just not a good way to go through the world. So stop doing it. All right. I'm out of here. Hey, thanks, man, everybody, for hanging out. The Swedes. If you're in Sweden and you're hanging out and you're listening to this podcast, good job, I guess. Good job on finding some real cream of the crop American culture. Same with those dudes in the UK. Thanks for you dialing it up on your devices and checking it out. It's real good. I like that. I think it's cool. I mean, what's going on over there? What are you guys doing over there? You should drop a line, drop a messenger message. I'm still on Facebook, so you can. I'm on there. I just don't do anything on there anymore. I don't even look at it, and I'm 10% happier. But if you're on there, you want to send a message. Send a message. Tell me what's going on in Sweden or in the UK. The UK is a bunch of different countries, right? So it could be anything. It could be anything. Not anything, but it could be a choice of people. U.S. people, what do you got going on in the world? What you doing? What's happening over there? What are your concerns? What are your insights on Face Off? Anybody got any Face Off insights or fresh ones that we could get into? I wouldn't mind that at all. Not in the least. Yeah, drop a line on Messenger. I got an email too. It's just my name and yahoo.com. I don't check it very often, but if you send something, I'll get to it eventually. That's always a good way to end. If I send something, I'll get to it eventually. Hey, thanks for hanging out, you guys. Have a great day. Seriously, have a good... That's an interesting thing, too. I heard a new Slipknot song today, and it was a fairly positive vibe. It was pretty hardcore stuff, but had a fairly positive vibe. It was called Live All Out. I think it was called Live All Out. And the chorus line was, I challenge you to live all out. So it was it was good. It had a sort of positive vibe to it, which is sorely lacking in metal. You gotta have a good... There's always that idea about a metal song, band, album, concert, or whatever, where it lets you get your aggression out, or you got a safe place to sort of get your aggression out or whatever. But man, you can infuse that with positivity too. I don't know what I'm talking about. I like fucking dank ass gangster rap. You know what I mean? So, I don't know what it is about that. Something to... I do like a positive hip hop though too. So anyway, good vibes too. Send those vibes out. Everything's cool, even though it's garbage. It's supposed to be. This is how we planned it. So thanks for doing that. Keep it real, you guys. Much love to the streets. See you next time.